Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. CNN, the most trusted name in news, with reliable sources, Brian Stelter. Guys, CNN just doesn't care anymore. Their ethos has always been, the most trusted name in news, we're fair, we're objective, we're journalists. But of course, we know that concept, that notion has been dead for a very long time, and there's even questions as to whether it ever really existed whatsoever. We just covered a story where Brian Stelter and Jake Tapper, casually having a conversation on live TV, talked openly about the fact that they specifically refused to give Kayleigh McEnany any airtime on their programs. I mean, she was just basically the spokesperson for the President of the United States, not exactly a relevant position. The absolute dorks refused to platform the White House of the United States in their coverage for the American people. Because of course, it's not about presenting both sides, it's about presenting their side, presenting their spin of what they believe the narrative should be. And once again, the mask is slipping, or they just don't care anymore, and they're just admitting that they're partisan hacks and not neutral conveyors of information. Next up, we've got, of course, professional victim and professional political grifter, Mr. Jim Acosta. Or maybe I don't want to call him Mr., don't want to misgender anyone. No microaggressions here, Jim, but you won't believe what Jim said this time. But before we get into it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. Now with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright, so we got this right here from the Gateway Pundit. CNN activist reporter Jim Acosta admits he won't cover Biden as aggressively as Trump. CNN's White House activist reporter, in quotation marks, very important context, Jim Acosta is openly admitting that they will not be covering a Biden administration as aggressively as they went after President Donald Trump. That's pretty much a surprise to no one. In an article for The Atlantic about how reporters plan to cover a potential Biden administration, Acosta said he doesn't expect to bring the same crusading style to his coverage of the next administration. The fact that a journalist has a crusading style in the first place goes to show you exactly how dead the field of journalism really is in the modern day. I don't think the press should be trying to whip up the Biden presidency and turn it into must-see TV in a contrived way. First of all, implying that they actively tried to whip up controversy and turn the Trump presidency into, quote, must-see TV in a contrived way. A little bit of a Freudian slip there, but Jim's never really been all that slick. And also, it's calculated because they don't really want attention on a Biden administration in the first place because it's most likely going to be an absolute train wreck, and they'll do everything to obfuscate and distract and justify and play defense for the walking failure that will be Joe Biden. The Atlantic article also went on to say, if that sounds like a double standard, it doesn't sound like a double standard, it is. Acosta told me it's not partisan. I can't read this without laughing. It's a matter of professional solidarity. Is this guy serious? In his view, Trump's campaign to discredit the press has constituted a non-stop national emergency, one that required a defiant response. If being at the White House is not an experience that might merit hazard pay, he said, then perhaps it's going to be approached differently. It should be noted that while Acosta has screeched like a banshee about how saying mean things about reporters is an attack on the press, he has not stood up for the actual imprisoned journalists like Julian Assange. It was always about trying to make himself the center of any given story. He loved the attention, and when receiving any type of backlash, he did what liberals do best and claimed it was an attack on his presence and reporters everywhere and played the victim. What a damn surprise. Meanwhile, Washington Post reporter Philip Rucker is hoping that he can still cash in on some of the good Trump outage bait even after he leaves office instead of concerning himself with Biden. You're going to have a former president pretending he really won the election, threatening to run again in 2024, he told me. You're going to have a Republican Party torn between Trump allegiance and a desire to cleanse itself of the past 4 years. And you can already tell exactly what the perspective of the press is in the modern day. It's not about giving Americans the information that they need to be informed. It's about finding what the story is and what the narrative and what the angle is. Finding out where they can get the best ratings, present it like a reality TV show, and drum up drama. And that's all they really care about. Jim Acosta is a total hack. And this comes right after poor Brian Stelter made his claim with Jake Tapper. And here's Jim Acosta on Brian Stelter's show, once again, playing the victim and talking about how endangered and oppressed he is as a journalist in the Trump administration. Check this out.
There were Trump supporters all over the country absorbing this hostility that the president was directing at the press and then lashing out at us as well. and, in ways that made us feel endangered. I am not the only reporter who covered this White House who has had death threats. There have been a number of us who have experienced death threats. We can't be at a place in this country, Brian, where political reporters, White House correspondents and so on need bodyguards to go cover political campaign events and so on. And so, it's more than just pulling a press pass or yelling at a reporter at a press conference or calling somebody names like we heard President Trump do with Abby from time to time. It is just a pervasive hostility towards the president, anti-democratic hostility towards the press that I just hope we never see the likes of ever again. It is just so damaging and destructive for our democracy.
Trump supporters absorbed Trump's hostility towards the media, made us feel endangered. And they always do the same thing. They always make it seem as if people who dislike the media, people who find CNN as dishonest and frankly full of crap, they make it seem as if those are just blind Trump cultists who can't make up their own mind and are just following the rhetoric of their dear leader, when it's literally the opposite. And most of those people got pushed towards Trump because of their feelings of the dishonest media, because the constant negative and slanderous coverage coming from dorks like Jim Acosta at CNN. Jim's got it backwards, and he knows that he's got it backwards, guys. People call him an activist. He's not an activist. He's a grifter. He doesn't care. He only cares about two things: selling books, getting his limelight, Twitter points, and drumming up controversy and headlines. That's all he ever cared about. And this isn't new either. I found this story from 2018 with Brian Stelter basically admitting the exact same thing. The president is ignorant of history. He does not know context. He should be ashamed of himself, Lemon argued at the start of his August 16 news program before turning to his guest to discuss Trump's comments about a white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Stelter suggests the kind of aggressive, personalized commentary we're seeing now comes from the daily dishonesty from the president and his aides. That's a big part of the reason why there has been more adversarial approach in the coverage in the years past. It's always everyone's fault except for theirs. The disinformation definitely doesn't come from us, it comes from the Trump team, and that's why we're being spiteful and dishonest and partisan. Right. Logic checks out. No, it doesn't. It's not logic, it's anti-logic. It's been 4 years of attack and slander on the current president, and it's going to be 4 years if Joe Biden is in fact inaugurated president in 2020. It's going to be 4 years of baby powder on Joe Biden's little baby bum. It's going to be 4 years of, oh, Mr. President, what flavor ice cream did you get after Joe Biden walks out of the candy shop? Where with the president, as Trump walks out of the candy shop, thousands of articles will be written about how the president had 2 scoops instead of 1. It's a complete joke. And speaking of Joe Biden once again making an absolute fool of himself, and it just goes to show without the media propping him up and saving him, being his guardian angel, I mean, this guy would be toast. Check this out at his most recent briefing, where he had another interesting, I guess, Freudian slip, something which we've seen before.
I took it to instill public confidence in the vaccine. President-elect Harris took hers today for the same reason.
And so, again, Joe Biden calls Kamala Harris the president-elect. I can't tell if it's a Freudian slip, outright foreshadowing for what's to come, but all I have to say is, could you guys imagine President Kamala Harris? God help us all. Also, you might have been following this story where Joe Biden goes after the Pentagon and criticizes them for refusing to give him access to information during the transition efforts. Well, the Pentagon just came out with a response absolutely blasting Joe Biden and his phony claims. Immediate release statement by Acting Secretary of Defense Miller on transition efforts. The Department of Defense has conducted 164 interviews with over 400 officials and provided 5,000 pages of documents, far more than initially requested by Biden's transition team. DoD's efforts already surpassed those of recent administrations with over 3 weeks to go, and we continue to schedule additional meetings for the remainder of the transition and answer any and all requests for information in our purview. Our DoD political and career officials have been working with the utmost professionalism to support transition activities in a compressed time schedule, and they will continue to do so in a transparent and collegial manner that upholds the finest traditions of the department. The American people expect nothing less, and that is what I remain committed to. So turns out, phony Kamala and lying Joe Biden are continuing the same trend of chronic habitual lying, spreading false information and false narratives, and the media, of course, is backing them at every step of the way. And also, one thing that we have to say, it has nothing to do with this video, but pay attention to Georgia because things are getting really bad right now. You might not want to hear this, but reality must settle in. Ossoff and Warnock take lead in Georgia Senate runoff poll by Trafalgar Group. So Trafalgar has the loony far-left radical senators leading in Georgia, and already over 2.5 million votes have been cast, and turnout turnout might actually be higher than the general election was. So it's time to start raising the alarm bells, and I mean seriously raising the alarm bells. Wake up, people of Georgia, because it's starting to get real spicy. Most polls I'll disregard, but the Trafalgar Group, things are getting a little bit real. But that's what I got for you on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. Now I'm going to get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.